Are we on? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Smith. I'm the Director of Communications for Thunder Bay Police Service. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the presence of an Empki Waju on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of Fort William First Nation, signatories to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850. I'd also like to acknowledge the contributions of the Métis people. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. In a moment, you will hear remarks from Thunder Bay Police Service Board Chair Karen Machado, as well as from Thunder Bay Police Service Chief Darcy Fleury. Following their remarks, members of the media will have approximately 15 minutes to answer questions in a format question with one follow-up. So with that, I will hand things over to Chair Machado.
Thank you. Let's slide that back. Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. The criminal allegations brought forward by the Ontario Provincial Police are deeply disturbing. There is a legal and ethical expectation, that information provided to Thunder Bay Police by Thunder Bay Police Service is truthful and factual, both to the board and to the community. It is critical for our community to have faith in the system that provides oversight to the Thunder Bay Police Service. I understand how these allegations have caused further doubts in these institutions and the system of policing and police oversight in Thunder Bay. It is the role of the board to evaluate all information with a critical lens, ask critical questions, and guide the service through policy development to ensure good governance. It isn't our role, it is our obligation, both morally and legally to the community that we serve. As a board, we have a vision to modernize the service for the future and build truth and trust with the communities we serve. That vision began with the appointment of Chief Fleury nearly 1 year ago. Both Chief Fleury and Deputy Chief Hughes have focused on delivering this. From the implementation of various recommendations to upholding the highest standards of policing, ensuring a healthy work environment, and most importantly, building trust with the community. We at the board have been fully engaged on developing policies and implementing the recommendations to ensure the system of governance for the Thunder Bay Police Service is among the strongest in the province. We are here today to send a strong message that the allegations, the alleged incidents of the past are not a reflection of the work that is occurring today. Our board will not hesitate to act on any allegations of misconduct. We will not hesitate to bring in outside counsel, law enforcement, to ensure that we execute our duties and oversight roles to the highest standards. I know the work of building confidence in our institutions is one that will take more than a press conference or a meeting. But I would encourage the community to come to the board meetings, hold us accountable, and join us in transforming the Thunder Bay Police Service and the Service Board for the future. And now I'd like to invite Chief Fleury to make a few comments.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for coming out to our event this afternoon. So as the police service dedicated to learning from the past in order to make the most of the future, Thunder Bay Police Service welcomed and fully cooperated with this investigation. These developments reinforce for me what I already knew, that a chief of police needs to be honest and accountable. This investigation began in 2022. Leading up to that time and since then, it has been a challenging time for our community. I acknowledge the erosion of trust in our service by some residents, and I'm inspired by the community's desire to move forward together. We are on a healing journey. Thunder Bay Police Service began a new path almost a year ago with a focus on creating an internal learning environment ensuring employees are provided the best opportunities to grow and develop their skills and careers, and doing our very best to rebuild healthy partnerships. Our team is committed to fulfilling our duties and responsibilities, serving with pride and protecting with compassion. Since joining the team last May, I have witnessed exceptional commitment, hard work, and resilience at every level of the service. I am proud of and confident in the overarching professionalism and dedication of our team. We continue to authentically engage our community to inform our priorities and strengthen trust. Together, we will stay the course. We will provide fair and effective police services to all the people we serve. Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up to questions from members of the media. Given that we have national media here, we'll prioritize local media first. For those who are interested, we'll have a microphone go around. Raise your hand for those who want to pick it up. We'll open there with the Globe and Mail. Just wait on the microphone. Over here. One question, one follow-up.
Hi, thanks for taking the time with us today. Karen, maybe if you can just expand a little on what you said. You guys are willing or dedicated, committed to bringing in any outside resources, etc. This feels like deja vu again, all over. I don't know for how many times now, but we've already seen outside resources come in. A number of reports, recommendations from them from between 2018 at least until now. Top experts in the province and across the country when it comes to policing and governance. This obviously has all occurred before both of your times, but I think it's what's brought us here today too. Is there going to be what kind of transparency and accountability is going to be done for that? And what else are we going to see? What else is there?
Well, as I spoke to, I'd encourage you and everyone to either watch our board meetings or attend our board meetings. You'll see that we are working through those recommendations. We've established a governance committee and a labor relations committee which were part of those recommendations. And through those committees, we're getting input. We have developed already, I think, 6 very good policies and more to come. We're continuing to work on those. So I think you'll see that by the actions we take, by getting involved, by coming to those and sharing your voice with us so that we can hear it. We'll begin to be doing strategic planning in our annual planning, and we encourage our citizens to get engaged in those as well and help us develop. Our website, you can go to our website as well and see there's a chart that shows you all the recommendations and where we are on them. So I can't speak to, as you alluded to, before we joined, but I can speak to what we've done since, and we are making progress.
The other question I have is, I guess, regarding if you guys can provide some sort of update on the number of reinvestigations for the sudden deaths. Because I just want to remind everybody, too, that we have a number of Indigenous families in Thunder Bay and area that are still waiting for answers, for certain closure, regarding the death investigations of their loved ones. And we know there are dozens, and if we can just have a quick update on those, and any contact or support or anything like that with the families involved.
So right now with the reinvestigations, that's in the hands of the OPP. They have been up here doing some work that they need to do to move further along what they're doing on those reviews. So I guess at the end of the day, any other comments would come from the OPP.
All right, next up, John Thompson, Canada.
Just to give our friends in the national media an idea of how it is to police this service or this city, Chief Fleury, you were involved in an altercation on Friday while performing an off-duty arrest outside of the Cumberland Street liquor store. Would it be, in the interest of transparency, would it be accurate for us to report that you then made 2 calls to the watch commander that went unanswered? You then called the communications center that told you that no units were available to back you up for 15 minutes, and that there has been a complaint filed with the OIPRD for your response to that incident?
So what happened on that incident, it actually happened on Thursday night. We were going to another event that we had planned, and I had stopped at the LCBO. They had advised me that this young lady had been causing trouble with them all day. It was a position where she had struck out at some of the security people there, and that she was kicking the doors and was causing grief throughout the day and then into the evening when I arrived. They described her to me, and they also explained that she was harmed to herself because she was wandering through traffic, and that she had gone through the parking lot and they were concerned for her safety. I determined that the best thing to do was go over and have a conversation with her and ask her to leave and go home. As I got there, I talked to the individuals that were with her, and they didn't know who she was, they told me, and they wanted me to take her away, and they walked away from her. So I asked her again where she lived. We had that conversation. It ended up, so from that moment that I went over to talk to her until the end, when the officers arrived, I think it was in total about 15 minutes. When I did tell her that she was under arrest for mischief, she became very violent and started punching at me, so I continued to walk her down as she was trying to walk away. And as she continued to walk away, I told her again she was under arrest, and she continued to try to strike me. So at one point, I thought for the safety of both of us, because I had placed her under arrest for mischief, I decided to restrain her, which I did. And then from my understanding is, what happened was then the crowd that had abandoned her came back, and they were starting to posture in front of me and started to make it look like there was going to be a different altercation in this situation. So I called the security guards were standing on the parking lot of the LCBO, and I asked them to call again to the detachment. Prior to that, I had called the first call I made was to the sergeant's desk, or staff sergeant's desk, and then when she started striking me, I paused for a bit, and then I called back when I kind of had her kind of calm down a bit, and then second call to the desk, and then the third call I made was to Deputy Chief Hughes, who called the comm center, and after that call from the comm center, it was about 3 minutes that they arrived. Yeah, this is my understanding. I don't know exactly the time.
And so the lack of availability of units to respond to a situation in which the chief of police is in peril, what does that tell you about your service's ability to police and investigate in this city?
Well, as it goes, we have talked to the city about resourcing and the need for additional resources and where we're at. But in this particular incident, it's one of those cases where it's, we prioritize. I don't think it really matters what the situation is. This was a low priority. It was a very low priority until the group came back around and started posturing to me. That was, until that point, it was, I could have just sat there till they arrived. But once they start coming back to you and it starts to get more violent, then there needs to be a pickup, and the officers arrived shortly after.
All right, next up, Cecilia Spells.
Cool. Thank you. And is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for taking my questions, by the way, both for the chair and chief. I think my first one will be directed towards Chief Fleury. Chair Machado, if you feel like chiming in after, please feel free. Chief, I was there the day you were sworn in. You've talked about trust in this community, building that with everyone throughout Thunder Bay, regardless of background, changing the perceptions of this service. These, of course, are challenging for that perception, and even looking at, you say, moving into a new era of policing in Thunder Bay. Staff Sergeant Dimony wasn't suspended until October of last year. That was just a few months ago. Why should there be trust in this community when there's fear officers like this are still in the service currently?
Well, that's a really good question, and thank you for asking that. So what we've been doing all along since I've been here is actually, we have a structure in place. We just want to make sure that structure is being followed. We have discipline processes in place. We make sure that that's being followed. We want to make sure that our officers are not afraid to go through the processes that have to be in there. From what I've seen, there might have been some of that concern over the years as things had progressed in a different direction. Different administrations work differently. What have I done as far as working with the community and building that trust? I think many of you know, many of you have been to some of the events that I've been at. Last year alone, we were probably in excess or pretty darn close to 100 different events in this community, all with the intent of getting the input and the communication and the conversation going with the community so that we could understand clearly what they need from us and what we're doing. I always say the same thing when I go to these meetings. It's I want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what we're there for, because how do we build trust is because they have to have the feeling that they can communicate with us, no matter what it takes. We had some very good conversations just the other night with the meeting we went to, and it was not easy conversation. And it was made very clear to us that we have a lot of work to do with a certain part of our community. And we're going to work towards that. We're going to continue those meetings. And so along with the community engagement, the community consultation is the structure that we have in place. We're working on a system, we call it a learning environment, where we really want our people to understand that there's a structure. It has to go through the ranks. We want people to feel like they have confidence. And we also want to give our supervisors and managers the autonomy to work at that level, so that they can manage those problems and they can actually better their skills and then be able to work with the system and really put a lot of confidence that people can go to the individual supervisors and get the answers they need. So we're working really hard on the structure and the community part.
And maybe following up to that in terms of culture. Oh, sorry, would you like to go, Chair Machado?
I was just going to say that the board fully supports the chief in his, actions. And we've got a labor relations committee that we work with that's made up of board members and community members. So, we have some independent thoughts and ideas. And, we have open dialogue. We talk about the challenges and we work together. So we support any way we can.
And then following up, maybe for the chief once again, going back to when you were sworn in, you said officer mental health moving forward is going to be one of your primary focuses moving forward. In terms of instances like this, how do you think that might challenge officers' mental health, knowing this does kind of cause issues in terms of trust with the service, and how do you address that as the police chief?
We're always focused on mental health. We're trying to find ways to ensure that that our officers and employees are given the best opportunity to make sure that they're well. We do have a number of officers that are off right now, and we're paying particular attention to see what we can do to help them get back and to ensure that that they're fit and ready to go back to work. As far as I think some of the processes that we have in play, it's going to take time. This is not going to be an overnighter where we have everything is going to be a magic wand and we're going to fix some of the problems that we have. But we really need to pay attention to when we see people might be struggling a little bit, pay attention to that and be on top of it so that we can provide the benefits and the services that they need prior to them being a real problem down the road that they may encounter. So these are all pieces that we have in play. We're early in the game. We've got a long way to go. Some of the things, some of the events that have happened over here, as we mentioned, are probably traumatizing to several of our employees, our past employees. And I think whatever plays out at the end of the day, we can't really comment on it because as it stands right now, we're talking charges. We're not talking convictions or acquittals. We're talking charges. So we have to be very careful on what we're going to talk about going forward as far as those types of, how those affected certain people.
Thank you. Next up, Michelle Allen.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. We've heard multiple times the phrase rebuilding trust and how that's something that's being worked on. But we're not hearing a lot of concrete examples. We're hearing that there are policies, that there are changes. Can you be specific about what some of those might be and how it's going to help?
So one of the things that we have done, we've started over the last little bit, is two things. We're trying to get the diversity committee. We have already established an Indigenous Advisory Committee. Some of the board's policies, our procedures, we have farmed out to some different agencies to have them look at it. Systemic racism, as we know, has been front and center for many years in pretty much all of the reports that we've seen. So we've asked these agencies to go through our policies and procedures and make sure that the language in there is not going to be putting us back into a pattern of that sort of systemic racism or potential for that. So we're having them look at it, having put the lens on it, to avoid the language, because if we don't, and I've mentioned this several times in the community, if we don't do that, then the responsibility falls back on us, basically, because now we've set up our officers for failure again, because we put them out there with policy that the community isn't up to or don't agree with. So we're really working hard on that. The community engagement piece, we go, like I mentioned, we go throughout this community, listen to everything that's going on and try to incorporate it. We're going to be incorporating their ideas. We want to hear from them and really, like I said, some of the marginalized communities, they're very strong in their opinions, and we have to listen to that and come up with ways to make sure that they're being represented, and that we're doing the best to provide the service for them.
Okay. Follow-up. We've heard a lot about these attempts to rebuild trust with the community, but among frontline officers who may have been potentially impacted by alleged charges like these, how are you going to rebuild their trust?
So I think that goes back to, where we're at. We're talking about cases that happened before we were here, right? So when we talk about trust or building trust or having a relationship, I can't ask anybody to have trust in me. I can only show them that they can. So we're going to continue down that path. We're going to continue to the work that we do. We're transparent. We've had difficult conversations amongst myself and the board as to some of the things that we're doing, and we're going to continue that. So as we go forward in some of the cases that are still out there, remaining from some of the different other pieces that are in play, not necessarily a criminal investigation, we will have those conversations. Those conversations will take place, maybe not necessarily at my level, and then just continue to show that we're transparent. We want to be out there and working together to clear some of these things off.
Any other local media with questions in the room? Otherwise, questions in TV, or we'll go to great. Colin Carmen, always.
Thank you, and thank you for welcoming me to your community and us here at CTV. This is a question for either of you. Granted, this was before your time, but why did it take former and current police members to go to the Attorney General through their lawyer and get an outside party to come in the OPP to investigate? Why wasn't this done internally and earlier? Why did it take somebody to come in from outside to investigate your own police service? And what can you say to the public once again, going back to the conversation of trust, what can you say to the public to reinstate that trust if you can't investigate your own police officers?
So with that, to your point, this did happen before our time. So the process was in play, and how that played out is the way it is today after 2 years of investigation. Going forward, and I think it's probably been some people in this room and other people in this community know that going forward, and this goes back to the conversation on our discipline policy, is that we take it very serious, but we want our people to feel that they're safe coming through those systems. So we have had already several occasions where we've initiated internal investigations on officers in the service, and we're moving forward on that and communicating with them as to what's going on, why we're doing certain actions and that type of thing. So that's going to help build our trust. The worst part about an organization is if the discipline process feels like it's unfair, it crumbles, and people then become afraid, and then that's when you start getting these grievances, you start getting these complaints, and it really pushes in a different direction. So we're working hard to strengthen that structure and move forward.
And Chief Fleury, and sorry, did you want to?
I was just going to say, again, we weren't around, but the former board did bring complaints forward to the OCPC. They did bring.
That's not true. I'm sorry.
Chantal, with respect, please allow the press conference.
I'm leaving. That's not true. You should apologize to these service members. To date, the board and the chief of police are supporting continuing defending the complainants in HRTO. They are indemnifying them. They have continued since their presence to file pleadings in the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, correspondence to my office, calling these people liars, calling me a liar. The chair called me a vexatious litigant in the paper. I'm legal counsel for severely damaged individuals. We brought these complaints forward to the chief, the board, OCPC, and the Solicitor General in 2021. They are still defending them today, and the taxpayers of Thunder Bay are paying for it. The OPP is clear it's not done. There are still other accused in the service at a senior level. I am not going to stand here with anymore.
For a second. There are processes, right, and legal requirements. We can't just jump to a conclusion. We have to go through the processes. We have to go through the processes and move on from that.
All we want is an apology.
I guess my second follow-up is going to be, are you going to apologize?
At this stage, I'm not. At this stage, I'm not sure what I'm apologizing for. We need to go through these processes to see what happens what the outcomes are. It's not a matter of it goes back to everything we're talking about. You can't just change overnight what has occurred in the past or what's perceived to have occurred in the past with a magic wand. So we have to go through the processes. Some of these processes are delayed because of procedures that have been filed, and that's just a matter of where that happens. So once that's all done, we'll take a look at where we are and make a determination on what needs to be next.
All right, we'll go now to the Zoom. And if you're interested in asking a question, please raise your hand. We have time for a few questions from those joining via Zoom. Again, you can raise your hand. All right, then, as there are no questions from the Zoom line, we will finish this press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They asked the wrong question. We're not interested in the training documentary. We're not interested.
Thank you, I appreciate that, but we also do a great job.
Well, I've been on for a year.